Yeah, well, you've given me a background in your email as to your sequence, in terms of the seeking. Well, you mentioned you've probably been a lifelong seeker.
Yes, that's right. Exactly. So I think I'm already somewhere, but I keep somehow not finding myself, if that's the right way to express it. And when I saw your interview with Louisa on Passion Harvest,
Mm.
which I've been following her for quite some time already, and I just then saw you, and there was just something about that interview that pulled me like a magnet. I think I mentioned that in my email. And then as a consequence, I went on your YouTube channel and I have watched, I think, everything I could find.
Okay.
Yes, and some of them I watch even several times, and it's quite interesting. It's really interesting what you talk about and what people talk about. And the sequence of since when was that, June this year, when I saw your interview first, and I thought, okay, now there's a pull here. I need to follow this. And maybe some years ago, or when I was younger, I might have probably waited, not be quite sure whether I should go ahead or not. But this time I was just like, no, 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 I just need to contact you and see, uh, yeah, how can you help
Good.
me, basically.
Good. So, well, let's have a look. So if you've watched the videos, you're quite clear, really. Um, are you familiar with the distinction between impersonal being and the personal realm of experience?
Using those words is a little bit new to me, I guess. But I might just need to give you a little bit of background that I have been to. I mean, I'm a yoga teacher by training, but I've done lots of trainings in many ways, but that's just one of them. I've been to ashrams, I've been to India many times.
Mhm.
I teach people meditation. So yes, I know what you talk about, but terminology is sometimes different, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah,
Are you familiar with the idea of the koshas?
a little bit, but I learned from you again.
Okay, good. So really, well, let's just begin um, by looking at the distinction between effortless being and the mind, because that's really the place where we can see where we're resting effortlessly. So you've probably seen this exercise demonstrated in some of the videos, but
Yes.
could you just let me know what's arising at the moment in terms of thoughts? Are there any thoughts arising at the moment?
Um, yes, there are thoughts.
Okay. So can you notice that those thoughts arise effortlessly, that they're just arising
Yes.
today?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. In terms of the thoughts, so they're just arising effortlessly. So the awareness that's aware of the thoughts is distinct from the thoughts. So we could just say there is awareness of the thoughts.
Yes.
So, so quite a good way to make the distinction between impersonal and personal awareness is the difference between the language we use, because in the human realm, since we were born, we've been encouraged to use personalized terminology. So most people would say, if you ask them, are there thoughts arising, they'd probably engage a personalized mode. So they would say, oh yes, I'm thinking about, what I have to do later today or something. But if we look impersonally, then we can see that there is just impersonal awareness of thoughts appearing. And so the simplicity of that impersonal awareness it's the foundation of all experience. So So everything actually is arising in impersonal awareness rather than arising in a personal domain. So if we take emotions as well, so everyone has told us the emotions are ours, but if we just observe the emotions impersonally, then we disconnect from them energetically, and then we see that we're actually remaining as effortless beings. So if we look, so are there any emotions arising in this moment? Any subtle feelings?
Yes, there are some
Okay.
emotions arising.
Okay. So could you use impersonal terminology to describe them? So really just saying, there is awareness of whatever the emotion is.
So there's awareness of curiosity arising.
Okay, good.
There is awareness of some level of what's the word, like carefulness, or
Okay.
or a bit of checking out. What's the word? I don't know how to describe it.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Good.
But yeah, that's arising. Yeah,
Good.
there's a couple of
So
emotions arising
great.
in the awareness. Yes.
Yes. So you can see that, and you can see the distinction really between forms arising impersonally. So thoughts arise in impersonal awareness. So they're just arising. They're like a little thought stream. And then there can be an emotional stream where there are emotions appearing in awareness as well. And then, we can adopt them. So we could pretend that they're ours. So we use language to make it appear as though they're our thoughts and emotions. So we talk about them in terms of the individual story, or we refer to the emotions in terms of, say, past experience. But self-realization is really the simplicity of seeing that everything is arising in impersonal awareness. And when we do that, we see that that's the foundation of all experience. So what always remains is impersonal awareness, but then we also have access to the personal realm. So when you're with your family, you engage in the personal realm. So you speak to them as though you are this lady, living in Australia, and the storyline that relates to that. But that's really like a character in a play. So impersonal awareness is really like the actor. So impersonal awareness can play any part, as an actor can play any part. And in the same way as the actor never becomes the character in the play, impersonal being never becomes the character either. We can assume that role and we can pretend that we are, but it never actually takes place. So in this moment, and in every moment, you've always just remained as impersonal being. It's just that we've been conditioned to constantly step into the role of the character and play that role as though it's true and as though that's who we are. So effortless being is really just seeing that, excuse me, the ability to just rest effortlessly is always available to us, and we can notice that any time of the day or night. We can just look to see, what forms are arising effortlessly. So thoughts arise effortlessly. In this moment, we could say there's effortless awareness of thoughts arising, effortless awareness of emotions, effortless awareness of two voices, the conversation, effortless awareness of the objects in the room. And so it's always effortless, impersonal, timeless awareness that is aware. And we're only actually existing in this present moment. The idea of time going by is also part of the construct to make it seem as though the kind of virtual reality human experience is real.
So is it different from the sense of I? The me
Well, the
who
sense,
I am in every moment, wherever I go. Is it different from that?
um, well, really, it's the I, in that sense, in the personal sense, is a disguise. So, so when we've been conditioned to say I, so we're saying I in terms of the individual. In reality, there is only one I, which is the capital I, which is the I which belongs to the infinite being, which you've remained as. So what you're feeling in every moment is the presence, the awareness, and the existence of the infinite being. It's just that you're playing this little game of hide and seek, where everything in this world has told you that that sense of I, that sense of existence, which is fully known in this moment, always has been the existence of the infinite being. It never became the individual. But because we've been bombarded with these ideas that we're existing as an individual, we've taken that sense of existence. You know, if you ask most people and you say, do you exist? They would say, yes, I definitely exist. But the certainty of that sense of existence is because it's actually the certainty of their infinite nature that they're aware of. So it's just it's been a case of mistaken identity, really, because what you've been conditioned to believe is the existence of Nina, all along has been the existence of the infinite being, and you've known it fully all along. It's just that this world has been like a disloyal friend. It's been trying to convince you that you are this person called Nina existing in time and space, when that pure sense of existence, the pure sense of awareness and presence, has all along been the presence, awareness, and existence of one's infinite nature.
Because I think I get that to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the missing link is for me, because I've had, I mean, again, we use words, but I've had that experience quite a few times in my life when I have a different consciousness of myself is probably the best way to describe that. Like when I gave birth, for instance, or
Yes.
when my dad died last year, and it was just this beautiful different space, or
Yes.
some deep meditations when I realized where I'm not this body
Yes.
and I'm not even my name. You know, it's very
Yes.
clear to me that
Yes.
I'm not what I look like.
Yes.
And I've traveled the world a lot, and I've always come to the same conclusion that the human being is the same everywhere we go, the essence of what we are.
Yes.
There's something in
Yes.
that has nothing
Yes.
to do with cultures or conditioning or anything. We just are somehow the same.
Yes.
But I still think there's a missing something that I don't really know what you're talking about, and I'm just
Well, there are a couple of things
and
I'd
that's
like.
when I in my email when I ask that question, what is it that I don't see about myself
Yes.
yet? That's the
Right.
question.
Well, there are two things I'd like to look at with you. So the first one is the distinction between experience and beingness, because for most people, when there's a kind of quest in life, which everyone is on a quest, sometimes it's a sort of materialistic quest, others it's a spiritual quest, and normally the spiritual one comes after the material one. And so there's a kind of sequence usually that comes along with that. So initially we're involved with material things. Some people like you, I would say, the spiritual component has been there all your life. And there's been something that you've known is missing, and you've been looking for it. And you've known that it hasn't, you've enjoyed a conventional life to some degree, but in many ways, there's something beyond that, and you always have.
Yes.
And so the way it unfolds, for most people, this is a kind of simplification, but generally there's a seeking in a material sense, and then there's a seeking to accomplish things in the world, through education and, that kind of thing. And then there can be a spiritual quest, which sometimes comes along, maybe in the late teens or early 20s, or sometimes a bit later. And that spiritual quest, to begin with, tends to do with practices like yoga, meditation, and those kind of things. Yeah. Now, what yoga and meditation tend to lead to is spiritual experiences.
Yes.
So we have experiences of things like expansion beyond the boundaries of the body, stilling of the mind, silence, bliss. Sometimes there can be intuition or different capabilities that arise. But they're all experiential, so they all have content, and they all sort of come and go. So you can have, as you say, like giving birth, there can be, because that whole process is taking place by itself to some degree. It isn't that you're giving birth, it's that birth is happening, really.
No, don't say that. No, I'm just joking.
We can't take credit for lots of things in this life, can we? The same way as we can't take credit for things like breathing or blinking or anything like that.
Yes.
So it's the experiential thing which captivates us, but that is in a way part of the game of seeking, because it creates a false trail, because
yes,
we tend to be trying to stabilize an experience. We think, oh, if we can stabilize this silence, if I could stabilize that feeling I had when my dad died, then that would be great. Yes. But those experiences come and go. But what you truly are, realization, is the awareness which is attributeless. So it has no qualities of its own, but it's simply the awareness which is awareness of all the experiences. So there can be an experience of like worldly experience, like getting drunk or eating food or whatever, or there could be the experience of deep spiritual experiences. There can be an experience of unity or expansion where we see everything arising in our own awareness, and it's knowing that the awareness that is aware of all those changing experiences in itself never changes, and it's totally effortless. So all the forms which come and go in every moment, they're all coming and going, and they can be profound spiritual experiences, or they could be intoxication, or they could be like a really busy mind or a quiet mind, or disturbed emotions or quiet emotions. The one thing that's constant through all of that change is the unchanging awareness that is aware of them. And that's what you've always been. So once you know that, then it brings an end to the seeking of experiences. We can still have nice experiences. We can still meditate. We can still practice yoga and those things. And we know that they tend to enhance experiences, in the same way as if we eat food which is more healthy and beneficial, then that's going to have a beneficial effect in terms of the physiology. But it's knowing that those experiences have, they have certain effects in certain realms of experience. So the diet has an effect, that can have an effect on the physical body. It can have an effect on the emotions. It can have an effect on the mind. Yoga can have an effect, a profound effect on the mind. It can have an effect on the emotions, and it can have an effect on the body as well. But they're kind of peripheral in a way, because they're all in the realm of content, but realization has no content. So it's simply the awareness that's aware.
Yes.
And let's just do a little exercise, which I've demonstrated this, but it's quite a good way to see what attributeless awareness is. So could you just close the eyes for a moment? And just focus focus attention on the back of the eyelids. And just notice that there's a sense of awareness, a sense of aliveness, a sense of presence. And there's a very clear sense of existence as well. So the familiarity of that sense of existence, aliveness, awareness, presence, has actually been the same all along. So even when Nina was a few days old, or a few weeks old, or a few years old, the awareness that is aware in this moment was exactly the same as it is in this moment. It hasn't actually changed, and it's completely familiar. So that really is the starting point, and it's what you fundamentally are. But it's just that sense of existence that you're knowing fully in this moment is the existence of your infinite nature. It isn't the existence of Nina. Nina arises, the idea of Nina arises in the mental body. But in attributeless being, and also in the body of wisdom or effortless being, they're actually fields of awareness. So in this moment, you're actually existing as an infinite field of awareness within which everything is arising. So there's arising in this moment, it's like an ocean with these waves arising on it. So there's the wave of sound, so there the sound of voices, there's the sound, of maybe, noises outside the building, there's awareness of the body sitting on the seat, there's awareness of thoughts appearing as waves, so the awareness of emotions. And so all of these forms are arising within this infinite ocean of awareness. And that's what you remain as. You never actually became the individual. Individuality is just one of the waves. It's just an option that's available. So that sense of expansion and existence is fully known. But you can see that it's just been a case of mistaken identity, because the sense of existence that is known very simply and effortlessly in this moment is the existence of one's infinite nature. It's just that everyone has told you that it's the existence of Nina. Okay, that's good. So you could open the eyes. It's good that you've practiced yoga and meditation, because you're familiar with the different levels of experience. So silence is something that's familiar to you. Thoughts arising, kind of watching, observing forms arising, like observing thoughts or observing emotions arising. It's just that practices are in the realm of the game of hide and seek, really, because it's the idea that if we do enough of this, then we're going to be able to stabilize a state, and then that's self-realization. But it's actually part of the process which keeps us involved in the game, because although we can have refinement of experiences, meditation can give refined experiences, it can quieten the mind, it can settle the emotions, but it doesn't take us any closer to our true nature, because our true nature is already fully present, because it's just that simple impersonal awareness that is aware of everything arising. So in terms of the koshas, we begin and remain as attributeless beings. So what you were just experiencing, where there was a focusing on the back of the eyelids, was just this awareness which has no attributes, and then just the noticing of forms arising within that. And the first sheath, or the first kosha, is called it's an Anandamaya kosha, which means the body of bliss. And that one we can become more familiar with as we experience, deeper states. So